Because you asked about the carnivore and like, so my story was like, I grew up
living 7 years longer. That was
But I was gonna say with you asked me about the carnivore people and like, because I want to share like, again, I think with the carnivore, like, let's see what happens in like 20 years. It's kind of a new experiment,
right?
But
we have to see how these things play out.
Exactly.
It's like a garden. Like, hey, we have this new garden idea. I think about that. Well, we don't know for like 16 weeks.
Exactly.
8 weeks.
You have it's a perfect example. Like if it's either going to work or it's not going to work. You're going to see the tangible evidence.
Yeah.
That's how I look at things. But I started like, standard American diet, sick, and I had a really, really bad gut, like painful gut since I was like 10 years old.
Really?
Yeah. So then, I kind of, my grandfather had a health food store actually in the 70s. So like,
no way.
I had exposure to this. I knew there was like a connection between food and health, but I barely knew anything. I took some nutrition in college and I was doing a lot of studying. And
it was before you learned all this stuff. Yeah, you were a kid. Yeah, you were a kid.
I was a kid. I'm just
eating chicken wings
all
the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I ate a lot of like grilled cheese and macaroni and cheese. Like that was my thing. I love cheese.
That's American, right? That's what I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was like,
jeez.
I got into college. I just started trying to experiment with different things. I found Ayurveda. I did this diet. And I was impressed. I was actually like, wow, we can take control of our health because most people just like eat whatever they want, whatever feels good. And then if you get sick, you go to the doctor, they give you a drug, so I was like, oh, we can take control of our health. This is like the beginning of my journey.
Did your pain go away?
No.
Okay.
It went away. It went away temporarily. That's the great part of the story. So then I'm noticing my gut hasn't gone away. My body I'm still having fat in areas like I don't want it. Something is not right. So I started researching. I went to a health convention. At that time, paleo was the craze. So for 1 year, I ate nothing but like meat,
nuts,
turkey, some nuts.
Or no.
Yeah, nuts, raw eggs, and greens and berries. I wasn't even eating oranges because I was like too many carbs. So that was like, I did that for like a whole year.
Paleo. Raw eggs.
Wow. Yeah, it was disgusting. It was like the worst time of my life food-wise, but I'm like, this is what we have to eat. This is the human diet. This is what.
And you were probably looking for solutions, like answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to, be healthy and be able to share it with people because I always wanted to share health with people, but I wasn't going to do it until I really found the right thing. So that's why there's been a long journey. So after a while on the paleo, I hear about the keto diet. This is like, over 10 years ago. Now it's like everybody knows keto diet, but this is kind of was like in certain circles. So I started eating butter, like tons and tons and tons of butter, like every day, like
butter in your
bone
coffee.
soup, butter in my coffee. Yeah, I was drinking tea, my tea. Yeah, exactly. So I did that for a while. Again, you get some short-term results, and then I would, nothing was fixing the gut. Finally, like everyone's starting to talk about the carnivore diet. I'm like, this is too much. I never actually felt good about eating meat, but I'm like, because this book came out by Dr. Gundry called The Plant Paradox.
Okay.
And this is where everybody thinks beans are bad for you. So there's 3 chemicals that are what called the enemies, like lectins, phytates, and oxalates. Yeah. And they say like, oh, if you eat these things, the lectins, they prevent you from absorbing nutrients and they damage your gut.
The
like,
anti-nutrients.
Exactly. Yes. Like gluten is a lectin. So peanuts have lectins. So they're like, so this guy, Dr. Gundry, comes out with this book and it tells you basically like, take the skin off your cucumber, take out the seeds, don't eat tomato seeds.
And like, people get religious about things.
I fell into it too. I kept falling into these things and
interesting.
I'm like, maybe that's going to fix my gut. Oh, it's the lectins. That's the problem. Right. So like, don't eat chia seeds. So I was like following this. And then there was this guy named Joel Green. This is now the lockdowns have happened. This guy, Joel Green, really smart guy. Like shout out to him. He's brilliant. And he starts talking about fiber. Like he's eating meat and eggs and everything, but he's saying you could like the carnivore is the worst idea. Like you need he's been on Ben Greenfield. He's been on a lot of shows. Yeah. So I'm like, this guy's great. It was lockdowns. We're all just like sitting around learning. So I start doing his stuff and I was feeling better. I was like, this is amazing. Then I meet this woman, a doctor named Dr. Shanhong Lu. She's from China, but she has an MD. She has a history. Like her family did Chinese medicine.
Okay.
She came to America, got a PhD in physiology. So she's studying the cells. Like she's brilliant. And she did worked in the hospitals. She worked in the, private clinic. She's trying to actually get people healthy.
Yes.
As opposed to her colleagues who are just wanting to get as rich as possible.
Right. She's in the field.
Yeah, she's in the field and she's
line.
watching none of this is working. This medicine is not working. So she decides, I'm going to figure out what works. And she went off on her own, started her own clinic, and spent so much time with the patients that she almost lost all her money. She was not making money. And she also wasn't satisfied with the results she was getting. She still wasn't happy.
She's an artist, a true artist.
Yeah, she's a healer. She's a true loving person. Yeah, she's one of my heroes. And
did she figure it out?
Well, she did. She did.
My goodness.
So through a whole bunch of circumstances, she realized we are swimming in toxins. Like you might have heard of glyphosate. I'm sure you don't use it in your garden, right?
Oh my goodness.
So it's the most sprayed chemical ever, right? They say it's safe, but they've lost billion-dollar lawsuits. And it's literally in everything.
Because it bioaccumulates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fat soluble, so it's very hard to get out of your cells. And
I've met people who flew the planes and sprayed
Yeah.
it. They got messed up, bro.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
Seeing doctors, it's real.
Yeah,
Glyphosate.
And Florida sadly is very high in glyphosate. So, but there's even more chemicals out there. So she realized there's a connection between disease and these chemicals.
And these toxins.
Yeah. Heavy metals. So she does have protocols to measure the toxins and how to remove it. I can give you a link to her stuff.
That's amazing.
But so I'm like, oh my God, it was just making so much sense. And I love this woman. I finally found a mentor in this field. Yeah, a guru.
Some of those,
I met my guru. But here's the funny.
We should give people the juice. You could send me the link.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll put it,
I'd love to. Yeah,
for sure.
And I could introduce. She'll come here. She'll visit here.
Amazing.
Hopefully in the spring, but if not in the fall, she's gonna come. You'd love her. But here's the thing. This is the funniest part of the story. Is after I'm blown away from her, she goes, "Oh, and you should try the whole food plant-based diet." And I was just reading about how bad the lectins are and how we need animal protein and all this stuff. I'm like, what? I thought you were so smart. Don't you know that that's been debunked? And she was like, no, Jason, I've studied this. I work with hundreds of patients. I know this works. I'm like, so I start spitting all of the talking points that I had heard.
The keto type.
Exactly. Well, what about this? Isn't it too many carbs? What about the lectins? And every single thing I said, she had the response, and she was just debunking everything I said in real time. Wow. And I was like, wow.
She said that at the end of the whole deal. She was really plant-based.
Well, this was our third conversation. I was getting so into what she was doing, and I was watching all her videos. And then that was the last thing she says. And I was like, what? So we get into this heated argument. And then after we get off the phone, I was like, my ego was still no.
Yeah.
But part of me was defeated. I knew she won.
Wow.
But then I thought about it. I couldn't get out of my head. Maybe she's right. Maybe I've been wrong all this time and all this, right?
Right.
And then I said to her, okay, I'll try it for 10 days because she had this 10-day cleanse. I'll do the 10-day cleanse. I go up to Asheville. I do the 10-day cleanse. And I love plant foods, by the way, but I was afraid of them. I was afraid of carbs. So I start eating what she recommends, and I'm eating brown rice. I'm eating all this stuff I've always loved. Because I didn't even tell you, I lived in 16 countries and studied traditional cooking. So they eat a lot of carbs and fiber, but I have been I got to do the paleo. I got to eat what our ancestors.
Right.
10 days, within those 10 days, for the first time, my gut felt better. Wow. And then I was like, what is going on here? I thought I was going to have so many problems. I start doing the research. I come across this book called Fiber Fueled, and it's latest research on how the fiber affects you. And that was how I started to become the fiber king. And that was almost 5 years ago. And it's just been, health keeps getting better and better. I've worked with people. I see the results. So
you came home from, that's an amazing story.
That's my story.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're in the garden. It's existential.